The brain is the command center of the nervous system, interpreting sensory information and directing muscle movements throughout the body.
We begin with the brain, the body's control center. Below it, the heart rhythmically pumps blood. The brain serves as the body's intricate command center, constantly transmitting vital signals.
The cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres and further into the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital lobes. This enables our conscious awareness and intelligence. The frontal lobe's anatomy is situated in front of the brain. It is responsible for the cognitive decision-making of the brain. The parietal lobe is situated directly atop the cerebrum, located behind the frontal lobe. This region is responsible for processing sensory information. The temporal lobe is located on either side of the brain, just below the frontal lobe. The temporal lobe is responsible for retaining temporary memories. The occipital lobe, located at the very back of the brain, is responsible for processing visual information. It contains the primary visual cortex. So to summarize, the four lobes of the central nervous system, or the brain, are frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe.
The cerebellum is a highly organized structure located at the back of the brain, beneath the occipital lobes and behind the brainstem.
Although it makes up only about 10% of the brain's volume, it contains more than half of its neurons, reflecting its critical role in coordinating movement and maintaining balance. The cerebellum is responsible for fine-tuning voluntary motor activity, ensuring that movements are smooth, precise, and properly timed. It also contributes to posture, equilibrium, and motor learning, allowing the body to adapt and improve performance through repetition and experience. Structurally, the cerebellum consists of two hemispheres connected by a central region called the vermis. The cerebellum also connects to the brainstem through three paired structures called the cerebellar peduncles, superior, middle, and inferior, which facilitate communication with other parts of the central nervous system. Beneath this cortex lies the white matter, often referred to as the arbor vitae due to its tree-like appearance, which carries signals to and from the cerebellum. Embedded within the white matter are deep cerebellar nuclei, which serve as major output centers. The cranial nerves are 12 pairs of nerves that originate from the brain rather than the spinal cord.
Just beneath the cerebrum lies the limbic system. This system evolved long before the cerebrum part of the brain. In the simplest of descriptions and terms, the limbic system consists of the hippocampus, which is essential for memory formation and spatial navigation. Following the hippocampus is the amygdala. The amygdala, an almond-shaped structure, processes emotions, especially fear, aggression, and emotional learning. Next is the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus regulates homeostasis and links the nervous system to the endocrine system. Following the hypothalamus is the thalamus. The thalamus acts as a sensory relay station, directing information to appropriate brain regions. Next is the cingulate gyrus. The cingulate gyrus is involved in emotional processing, decision-making, and pain perception. We now turn to the fornix. The fornix is a fiber tract that connects the hippocampus to other limbic structures. Next is the mammillary bodies. The mammillary bodies are important for recollective memory and part of memory circuits. Following the mammillary bodies is the septal nuclei or septal area. It is associated with reward, pleasure, and reinforcement learning. And finally, as part of the limbic system is the olfactory bulb. It processes smell and has strong connections to memory and emotion.
So in summary, the key structures of the limbic system to include are the hippocampus, amygdala, hypothalamus, thalamus, and cingulate gyrus.
Here is a detailed diagram of the limbic system, and feel free to pause the video at any time.
The brainstem is considered one of the most fundamental and evolutionarily ancient parts of the central nervous system. Because of its essential role in maintaining consciousness and regulating involuntary processes.
It serves as a critical control center for many of the body's automatic and life-sustaining functions, including breathing.
Other life-sustaining functions are heart rate, blood pressure, and basic reflexes such as swallowing and coughing. The brainstem is composed of three main components: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. The midbrain is involved in visual and auditory processing, as well as motor control and alertness. The pons acts as a bridge between different parts of the brain, helping to regulate sleep, respiration, and communication between the cerebrum and cerebellum. The medulla oblongata controls critical autonomic functions such as heart rate, breathing rhythm, and blood vessel regulation. Together, these structures coordinate essential physiological activities that allow the body to function continuously and efficiently without conscious effort.
Today, we're delving into the fascinating anatomy of the human brain and vision. And here we have a detailed look at the structure of the human eye.
Structurally, the eye is composed of several key components, including the cornea, lens, retina, and associated fluids that help focus and transmit light. The retina, located at the back of the eye, contains photoreceptor cells known as rods and cones. These signals are then transmitted to the brain through the optic nerve. The optic nerve carries visual information from the retina to the brain, where it is integrated, processed, and interpreted into meaningful images. Because the retina and optic nerve originate from neural tissue during embryonic development, the eyes are considered anatomical and developmentally part of the brain itself. This close relationship highlights how vision is not just a function of the eyes alone, but a complex brain-based process involving perception, interpretation, and cognition.
Structurally, the spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column and three layers of connective tissue: the dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. Internally, the spinal cord contains gray matter and white matter. The gray matter, shaped like a butterfly or H, is located in the center. The gray matter is divided into dorsal horns, which receive sensory input, and ventral horns, which send out motor signals. The white matter surrounds the gray matter and consists primarily of myelinated axons organized into ascending and descending tracts. Each spinal nerve is formed by the union of a dorsal root
carrying sensory afferent fibers
and a ventral root carrying motor efferent fibers. This organization enables the spinal cord to serve as a hub for both incoming sensory signals and outgoing motor responses. Motor signals originating in the brain travel down descending tracts in the spinal cord to reach lower motor neurons, which then activate skeletal muscles. Ascending tracts, on the other hand, carry sensory information such as touch, pain, temperature, and proprioception body position sense to higher brain centers for processing. A key function of the spinal cord is reflex integration. Reflex arcs allow the body to respond quickly to stimuli without waiting for input from the brain. The reflex arc begins with a sensory receptor, moves to a sensory neuron, then an integration center in the spinal cord, a motor neuron, and finally to an effector like a muscle. In addition to reflexes, the spinal cord plays an essential role in voluntary movement. So in summary, the spinal cord is a critical component of the nervous system that functions as both a conduit for neural signals and a center for reflex coordination. Its organized structure of gray and white matter, segmental nerve connections, protective coverings, and bidirectional communication pathways enables it to function efficiently. The human peripheral nervous system, or PNS, is the part of the nervous system that lies outside the brain and spinal cord.